Today I want to talk about your coronavirus response plan. I just saw in the news that I believe it was Tyson's Food had thousands of people that are diagnosed with COVID-19, and that is certainly a difficult situation and possibly a tragedy in the making. But it made me think about your business. Do you have a plan in case some or many of your employees either get exposed or end up contracting COVID-19? To go along and think that that's not going to affect our business, I think is foolish. We've been into this a few months now, and now we have an opportunity to kind of plan. So I recommend that you get a written COVID-19 response plan in place for when and or if you get people that come down with this or who are exposed. And there's two different tracks here, right? Number one would be, what happens if somebody is exposed? Now, the CDC has guidelines on all of this, and I certainly recommend you take a look at those at cdc.gov. But today I'm going to talk about the importance really of getting a written plan in place. And I want you to think about a couple things here that maybe you hadn't thought about before. So first thing, if they're exposed, that's one issue. I'd recommend that you get a plan in place if you have people who are exposed, what you're going to do regarding testing and things like that. What is your response going to be? Because you might want to do things beyond what CDC recommends based on how you want to run your business. So one thing is if they're exposed. The second thing, which is much more serious, if they actually test positive for COVID-19. You need to have a plan in place, because when the emergency is happening, it's difficult to get information, and it's not one you want to start from zero at that point. You want to have a plan already in place, written 1 to 17. Here's how we're going to handle this. So let me give you some thoughts here. First thing you want to think about is testing. There are a bunch of different testing options right now, but they're not fantastic in a lot of locales. Some things to think about. Some testing centers, they will only test if you have symptoms. So you got to know that if you send them to a testing center, you want to understand, hey, is this a center where it's only for symptoms, or it doesn't matter whether you have symptoms or not, you can still get a test. So that's the first thing you want to think about. Second thing you want to think about when you're selecting a testing center is going to be, what's the response on this? Now, there is some rapid testing available out there where you can find out in as little as 15 minutes. That's fantastic, but that's certainly not all locales. When we looked at this in our own locale, most places were not rapid response on the diagnosis. Oftentimes it was 7 to 14 days until you got a result. And that kind of stinks. That means you're waiting for those 7 to 14 days to get an answer. Do they have COVID or not? So I would think through and find out ahead of time which centers we're talking about, so you know how to deal with this on the front end. Another thing you want to think about is, what if, for whatever reason, no matter where you're at, what happens if you have to go to a 100% work from home situation? Are you ready for that? Or are you just going along hoping that we don't have to have that take place? No matter where you are in the country or where we are with the virus right now, that's a possibility that could happen again. And I think we've got to think through. Once again, are there certain things we have to get in play regarding technology, equipment for work at home, equipment in your offices, to make sure you're all ready to go if that were to happen. As I said here in our office a week or two ago, I said, listen, if this happens, we're going to have to go with almost no warning. We just have to, all of a sudden one day, boom, if they say it, or if something happens and we'll have to do that, we've got to be ready to go. So my point today is to think through and get down on paper a COVID-19 response plan to make sure you are ready when and if this thing affects your business in a greater extent. Have a great day. Thanks for joining me.